Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Honoring Women's Month roundtable here this evening. It is my honor to be facilitating a conversation among these esteemed women leaders. My name is Martita Bodden, and I'm a member of the board of directors here at the Credit Union and the deputy director of tourism for tourism product development in the Cayman Islands government. This evening, it's all about sharing insights around advancing gender equality, breaking barriers, and creating opportunities for women across generations. Just here behind me here at Credit Union headquarters, we've got members of the board, we've got the CEO and her management team, and of course we have you online joining us here this evening. Thank you very much for making the time. We hope that the next couple of hours is insightful, informative, and inspiring. That's what it's about. I'm privileged to be joined by women who are all members of the credit union. And those of you who are online, I hope you are. And if you aren't, please sign up. So I'd like to dive right in and tell you a bit about each of these women around the table, and then we'll get into the conversation. So first, we have Dr. Gelia Frederick Brangenderen. She's the director of the Water Authority, Cayman Islands. And she's going to be talking to us about supporting women and girls in leadership for decision-making in business and in STEM. Welcome. We also have Ms. Melanie Bryan-Waugh. She is the head of the Youth Services Unit at the Cayman Islands government, and she'll be talking to us about recruiting, retaining, and developing diverse talent. Then we've got Ms. Dubeda Waldo. She's a registered architect, and she'll be talking about designing and building infrastructure to meet the needs of women and girls. And then we have Ms. Claudette Mackenzie Bowen. She's an agronomist, and she'll be talking about how do we involve women and girls in sustainable agriculture and food security. See the diversity that we've got going on here? Loving it. Then we've got Ms. Keisha Cowrie Roberts. She's the Human Resources Manager at Conyers, Dill and Pearman, and she'll also be talking about recruiting, retaining, and developing diverse talent. We have Emily Kelly. She's the director of the Alex Panton Foundation, and she'll be talking to us about how to help women and girls make informed decisions about their health. Next to her, we have Dr. Ashley Welcome. She's a veterinary officer at the Cayman Islands Department of Agriculture at the Cayman Islands government, and she'll also be talking about how to involve women and girls in food security and sustainable agriculture. We've got Miss Mita Day. She's a women's sports coordinator and head coach at the Cayman Islands Government Department of Sports. And she's going to tell us how to elevate women and girls' participation and achievement in sports. Then we've got Miss Evelyn Rocket, who's a principal and educator, and she's going to tell us how to provide women and girls with access to quality education and training. And then we've got Miss Louise Christine Burke Richardson, who is the owner. She said, I'm the owner, not just a director. She's the owner, director, and entrepreneur. And she's going to be talking about forging women's economic empowerment. What a great lineup we have here this evening. I mean, round of applause. Huge kudos to the credit union team for having the vision of putting this together to be able to showcase the talent within the credit union membership, but also sharing your insights with the membership and the team who put this together for us. We're really grateful for that as well. And we have you online. I think there is a chat box too, so be open to share some of your insights and thoughts as you go along. And there will be a bit of a Q&A session towards the end as well. So if you have burning questions, make some notes, but don't tune out for a second because I think it's going to be great. We're going to dive in first with Miss Louise Christine Burke Richardson. And Miss Christine, tell us from your perspective, what role do you think financial literacy plays in women's economic development? And how can we ensure that more women benefit from financial education programs?
Well, first of all, this should be taught in schools, because when the girls come out of school, all they think about is getting a job. And they don't remember any other thing besides working for someone. You can be working for someone, yes, but you can also have a business, like using me. Mm-hmm. I did that when I was 23 years old. Mm-hmm. I was working, and then I started my business. So it was hard, yes, because even as a woman, generally, I think that men has a better chance of getting monies from the banks. I don't, they look at us at a different level. Of course, banks they have to make money and they have to make sure that the loans are secured, but somehow there's something about us that is a downfall to us. Because I go back to myself. I started my small boutique, built a little small building first with the help of, in those days, Caymanians used to help each other build. So it didn't cost that much, just bought a small loan. And then I did well, because those days I brought in very, call it expensive clothes, but clothes of quality. And so I did well. And then I wanted now, after I did so well, I say, well, okay, if that is working, I should have my own building. And so I went from that level to that level. When I tried to get to the banks, I was not successful the first time. I was actually turned down. But knowing me, and all women should always remember, you gotta fight and you gotta fight and don't give up. So I'm not a give up person. So I went back to the drawing board and thought I could come back with a better idea. That failed. Still didn't give up. And went back to the drawing board with my loans manager. I don't want to call him a name, but he's not from here, but he had interest in Caymanians. And Ms. Fox, you know who I'm speaking of. He was recently sick, but I think he's now back on a good footing. And we came up with an idea then. Let's do phase 1 and phase 2. Went back to the bank. Phase 1 was approved. But if I had given up, I wouldn't have been where I am today. So banking is, it was good for your first job, but it shouldn't be your last job. I think you need to move on, because as locals, you're treated differently. And I don't know how many people have been in banking, but those who in here who has been in banking should know that, you know, they don't treat us well. So I moved on and I got my next 2 years. I went back, did the next phase, got that. Had my successful boutique. Most of you don't know, you're too young. You wouldn't know that. What you're talking about in the 80s now. And very successful. I think Ms. Pat would know. And then when the Chinese clothes came into effect, I couldn't handle it, because you're coming from up there to down there, too cheap. So I rented it out, then took it back and went into another business, because one of the things we must do, we must always dream, plan, and execute. I am 71 years old now, and I'm still dreaming. I will always be planning, because if we get, and this might be a little political now, but if we get the port, which is on, we have access to Shannon Road.
2 minutes.
On. If we get the port, then I have my plan already. What I want to do, even though I'm older. As you all know, I'm very successful. I didn't give up. A poor little girl from up in Shannon Road. During my banking years, I helped a lot of people. The last 4 years, I did mortgages. And I did a lot of mortgages that was approved. And I helped my people. It was the joy in hearing them when I call and say, it's approved. I mean, you couldn't get no better response from that. So what I want to say to you all here is that as a woman, you got to be hard, strong, and know what you're doing. Just plan and go with it. Don't give up.
Well, Miss Christine, thank you for your honesty and transparency in sharing that. I mean, just in those few minutes, it's clear that you're a Renaissance woman. And what came out for me, I was taking so many notes, is that there are lots of things that we as a country can do to empower women. It's treating financial literacy as a critical life skill in schools. And then there's also a lot that we can do as women ourselves.
Yes.
Get the information, get the knowledge, and fight. Know it is what you want. But then also what others can do for us. And I'm glad that you raised the gentleman who supported you. We need advocates as well.
Yes.
And it's not just women, it's
Yeah,
men.
it's
So
men,
men,
yes.
hope there's a couple of men online. But yes, absolutely. This is, it takes all of us to do that. And you mentioned the dream, plan, execute.
Yes.
And I think you've demonstrated too, you have to keep evolving,
Yes.
right? You have to keep evolving and really appreciate that and keeping your eye open for opportunity
Yes,
as well. I mean, just in the first few minutes here, there's so much great things to take away. And again, I'm grateful for you being open and honest and sharing your story. Because absolutely, it's just a great reminder of something that we can do, the country can do for us as well, and others can do for us. Thank you very much, Ms. Christine. Yes. Whether you are working within a business or you have your own business, talent is critical, right? No man or woman is an island. We need people around us. And so pivoting now a moment to recruitment, retention, and developing talent. We'll come to Keisha and Melanie. So in the introductions, you'd have heard that Melanie is with the Cayman Islands government and Keisha is in the private sector. So in this section, we're going to give both of them the opportunity to answer these questions from those very different perspectives, but who knows, they might have more in common than we think. So to both of you, what steps can organizations take to attract and retain diverse talent, especially women in leadership roles? Oh, great.
So in terms of attracting and retaining diverse talent, it's what we put out there. I think in this day and age, once upon a time it was a Compass ad, but it's what people see out there, what there is about the organization. I think the organizations need to get to the point where they're open about what they do, what they offer. Because we know a lot of young people, they're online, they're looking, they're researching, what the company says they stand for and what they actually stand for. It's one thing to say you stand for this. When you start working, it's something totally different. But in terms of, having that information out there and the consistency. So putting out a message to potential employees, this is what we stand for. So, yeah.
Excellent segue for me. At Conyers, I've been with them for over 25 years. My first job, will be my last job. And at Conyers, what we have been successful, or what has helped us be successful, is we've established 7 core values. So as Mel said, what you put out there to the community as to what kind of organization you are and how you support and treat your staff. We have thrown a lot of emphasis on our values, and I'll just read them out for you all. Excellence, integrity, initiative, diversity, legacy, collegiality, and connectedness. And of course, they all go down, in their subsections, but we ensure that each employee always have those values to the forefront of their minds as they interact with each other. But also what you see from Conyers, we're living testaments of those values. And that has helped us with recruiting a diverse, level of skill set, and also focusing on training our senior management has been very beneficial to us. We have included inclusion and unconscious biasness training, especially for our hiring managers. Many times we don't realize that, we think, of course, we're the best and we want someone else like us, not realizing that maybe we need somebody a little bit different to add that flavor and diversity and just to improve the team. So we have focused a lot on making those trainings mandatory for our senior management. And then also with the retention part of it, it's, again, joining forces with our team members. Mentoring is very big for us. We have a buddy system, a formal buddy system. And that doesn't mean we have 6 offices in 6 jurisdictions. So it doesn't mean that it has to be someone within the Cayman office. We will buddy you up with someone in Singapore or BVI. We try to identify where we can pull strengths to uplift and upskill those that may have some deficiencies and gaps in their skill set.
So Keisha shared specific policies, initiatives, you spoke about mentorship as well. So continuing that for a moment, when you think about differences in the workplace, I think one of the most obvious differences is around gender. You've got men and women. How have some of those mentorship programs or other initiatives that you've talked about helped women break through and what can be seen as a traditional sort of male-dominated industry in the case of legal, for example?
What you said earlier, Marzita, about having an advocate is the catalyst, right? And we've been so fortunate at Conyers that we have looked at our senior level management, which was the legal industry is predominantly male or used to be. And about almost 10 years ago, we took a look at how our structure was sitting, and we realized that it was heavily male, heavily white males, and we made a conscious effort to recruit more females, including we offer a scholarship program for law students, even targeting directly for female scholars. But what we've done also is, again, empowering our male counterparts to be advocates for our ladies in the office, and just pulling on their strengths, whether that means us putting a female in an office with a senior associate or a counsel or even a partner, because that is what we have identified as being necessary to make sure that they get the training and the support that they need. It may be something long-term, it may be something for 3 months, and we have seen such a huge success with that, that we're now looking at more office sharing seating options. So just having an advocate, advocating for our women and just making sure that they also receive the same treatment and the same opportunities that our male attorneys or male employees receive, and also women having a seat at the table and having a voice at the table, not just sitting taking notes, or being board support, is having those decision-making rights.
So Melanie, sort of round up this segment now. Great point that Keisha ended on there about having a seat at the table. We know that when anybody starts their career, it typically doesn't start at the table, but that's where a lot of people want to be if they so choose. So when it comes to women's career progression, what are some initiatives or policies or programs that you either see in your current place of work or that you want to see, or maybe what's in progress to help support that?
So taking off from what Keisha was saying about mentorship, there's also mentorship at various levels for women within CIG. So you don't get to a certain level and then the mentorship stops. You know, we have our DCOs, our deputy chief officers, who are being mentored. We have our chief officers who are being mentored. So mentorship isn't just an entry level type role. It's right through, and having that support from the very beginning, right through. So I think that's important as well. And women partnering with women, you know, and sharing stories. And regardless of what level you're at, I think as women, we need to get better at sharing stories, because sometimes all the women sat at this table and in this room probably have a shared story that we just don't know about. But having those conversations and supporting each other in that perspective. So going on to what are some of the benefits that are offered. So one of the things CIG now does is that there's maternity leave up to 110 days, you know, for women, and that's the allotment, not taking into consideration their vacation days or special leave that they can attach to that. And for women in leadership roles, especially young people, young women starting families and wanting to move up in their careers, you know, it's not a matter of you have to be putting that on the back shelf. until you've raised your children and they're in high school. You know, it's something that you can do and your job is waiting there for you at the end of it, you know, and it's offering that support. So that's one of the definite benefits. And then there are the other things that will support them. There are wellness days that CIG has implemented. You know, every employee gets 2 wellness days. We know that there are some days that they're, you know, just not wanting to go to work for whatever might be going on. So those options are there. There's a flexibility in terms of your work environment. You know, it could be a matter of working remotely for a few hours. Traffic, we know, is a big issue for people coming, especially from the east. You know, you might have to start work at 8:30. You know, you can start a little later, or you're online for a couple of hours until traffic dies down and then you come in. So there are a lot of opportunities like that that helps to support the well-being and health of our women. Because another thing is, we know as women, we go, go, go. And sometimes, you know, you feel you're just not feeling well, but you're going anyway. So it's allowing women that opportunity to say, hey, I'm really not feeling well. Let me take a break, even if it's an hour not to drive in traffic. Because then you get into the office and you're already riled up. So your day is just off altogether. So it's those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's clear that whether you're in private sector and government, there's some things that are going to ring true throughout. Having a supportive network of people that is inclusive and with different perspectives to support you as you go along. The importance of values. While Keisha eloquently talked about the 7 values that Cornersville Impairment, you touched on some of the CIG values about naming them, but you see it in some of the policies that they're bringing forward, which is great. I think at the end of the day, that's what is critical, to make sure that we build the partnerships, build the support networks to help build the workforce, support their advancement as well. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Just to say, and you know, this is being driven by the DG.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
we have an advocate right there with
Yes.
our DG.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Thank you very much. Dr. Julia, so we've talked a little bit about, you know, Miss Christine is a huge advocate for entrepreneurship. We've talked about nurturing talent within. We want to talk to you a bit about leadership and decision-making and women in STEM, talking about traditional male dominated. It's always great that, you know, you've got a women at the water authority at the top. From your perspective, what are some of the key leadership qualities that women bring to decision-making roles, specifically, basically why we need to be there?
Why we need to be in charge.
Yes.
I mean, big a lot like that, but I do think that women bring to leadership roles, they bring feeling, or they bring things like inclusive policies. Women have a tendency to be a bit more passionate. Women are also very innovative. I listened to Miss Christine, and I'm very excited. I never really heard her story before, but I can see, you know, this is a lady who was determined, passionate. She had a focus and a vision. Those things women bring to leadership, and I think that benefits an organization. The other thing that women bring is the ability to multitask.
Yes.
My husband says to me, only tell me one thing at a time. That's how I'm doing, like, you know, I have multiple things going on at the same time. And I think that's a great benefit for women in leadership, and not only in leadership, you know, whatever your job is, women just have that little knack. And the other part of it is intuition. You know, you hear about female intuition. Actually, I think it is a thing. I don't know if it's been scientifically proven here, but that is a benefit for an organization. So those are some of the things I find, and I actually, in my organization, have been at the leadership role for this year is what, 2025? October will be 25 years. And I have been so grateful for my management team. My management team is 50-50. I have 3 ladies and 3 gentlemen, and they buck heads a lot. No, but together, I think we have done a reasonable job for the Water Authority. And I'm very proud of them. And actually, they make my job so much easier. So, you know, I think women also have the tendency to let go a little bit. You know, if you're a mom, you have to learn to let go of your teenagers. They have to grow up. They have to go on their own. And women, I think, have that ability, which is also good in an organization because it means as you have people in your organization growing up, you don't need to micromanage every single thing. For younger leaders to develop, you have to acknowledge they're going to make mistakes. So you have to give them a little room to grow. And when the mistakes or errors happen, it's not that you come down on them with a thumb and you get very angry and whatever, but it's an opportunity to learn. And you take that time and you talk. And usually, you know, people are more receptive, whether it's male or female, to develop themselves in that sense. So, I mean, that's just some of the things I see from my role at the Water Authority.
Yeah, for 25 years. So
Yeah.
over time, which is incredible. So you've seen many aspects of things, I'm sure. What are some of the challenges that you have seen women experience when it comes to, you know, STEM type roles in business? And then how can we create more opportunities for them? Whether it's these are pipe dream thoughts or what you see in practice, whether here in Kingman at the Water Authority or otherwise, like how can we help them break through these challenges?
Well, in STEM, of course, I think it was mentioned a little bit earlier, there's gender bias. You can't totally get out of it. But in my years of being in science, I have gone from being the only female at a particular type of conference to seeing lots of women, all different colors, shapes, and sizes. And to me, that is pretty amazing. And in Cayman, it's actually now the same thing. A couple of years ago, we had for our 40th anniversary, we did a special thing on women in STEM. And I was absolutely amazed at the young ladies that were able to sit on a panel and hold their own and speak eloquently about their passion for science. And that gives me hope. I think women are rising up to the challenges. The thing is that it will still be there though. And as a woman, you have to be strong, like Ms. Christine said. She had lots of barriers in her way. But you have to do your best to be determined. And the role models around you, the mentors that were mentioned, and the male role models. There are men, as Ms. Keisha mentioned too, that provide support. And we need to encourage that because we're not alone in this world. It is male and female. We're all here together and we want a better world. At the Water Authority, we do things for our staff, for women. I mean, Miss Melanie, sorry, it seemed like I got frogs. I love frogs, but it seemed like one.
I see the frog. I see the frog. He's made his way up.
Yeah.
He's still growing them in the tub outside.
Sometimes. But, you know, it can be difficult for women in the workplace. But we try to, for instance, for young mothers. Last year, I was so excited. I had 3 very capable middle managers pregnant, and I'm so excited for them. Thank you. And they were all on maternity leave. They were gone for about 6 months. But we made it work because I want them back. And, you know, we have a place if they need to express for breastfeeding. One of them actually was able to work from home while her baby was younger. Those are the accommodations that I think an organization would make. I remember when I became the director of the Water Authority, I had just had my daughter and the previous director decided to resign just like a couple of days before she was born. He told us, and my whole plan for maternity leave just went out the door. So instead of me getting, 3 months off, I had to come back to work very quickly. And I had no place to, express for milk, all those types of things. I had to close my office and put signs on the doors and all that type of stuff. And pray nobody barge in, because our doors, you can press a lock, but it doesn't seem to work. It just opens. I don't know. So it's all those types of things that are changing. And I think, I don't know whether it's just me because I'm there, but I am very in tune to those types of needs for women. And it's not only that, it's also when you have issues in the family. There are all sorts of things happens in families, whether it's severe illness of a loved one, a sudden passing of someone very, an immediate family member. You have to have some compassion. And yeah, the labor law may say you will have 5 days compassionate leave. We work beyond that. We take into account the situation of the person and the family. One of the other things we provide for our staff is also, we have an arrangement with the wellness center. So our staff can get mental health care at no cost to them, for themselves and their family. So their family member can actually go and have counseling. We also use it for mandatory references too, if we need to, but it is that those types of services and benefits that help females and males in the workplace.
Great examples there of how having a woman in a leadership role in an organization can bring so much, the intuition, the empathy, innovation, and bringing all that in, and clearly multitasking, because you've got all these balls going and getting to make them happen. I mean, you always hear the saying that if you want something done, give it to a busy person. I think you're being kind, you give it to a busy woman. Thank you very much. I think we're all super grateful that when we turn on our taps, our water is there. Yes, it is absolutely critical infrastructure, but more importantly, thanks for building an organization that is truly empowered by women. You mentioned from you and of course your leadership team. Pivoting to infrastructure in another way, we're going to go to Ms. Dubeda. Talking a bit again about designing and building infrastructure to meet the needs of women and girls specifically. So tell us a bit about how does infrastructure, and people going, well, what's infrastructure? Transport, childcare facilities, family service, etc. How does that truly impact a woman's ability to thrive in their career and their personal life?
In terms of architecture, we really focus on the built environment and how each space can function to have operational efficiency. Transportation doesn't really deal with it per se, but it does help, because there are a lot of women who are professional and have ability, but they might not have a car. And so now I've seen that we have public transportation now, so people can be mobile and get to where they want to go without having to beg for a ride or things of that nature. Now, in terms of infrastructure, what I've seen in my profession is a better understanding of adaptability and change within an environment, so things aren't fixed as they used to be, and understanding neurodiversity and how a space can be flexible, and that's a nice trending thing, so that we're not catering to a woman because she's sensitive, but we're catering to a space and its adaptability to a person's needs because they're valuable. So you'll have a desk and it'll have multifunctional features because it's the best way to get performance. So if you want to sit down, you sit down. If you want to stand up, you stand up. There are places in Gab now that you can, if you have a child, you can use it to either nurse a child or get the milk and go back and be functional and not be vulnerable. Also understanding neurodiversity in a workplace. You have conference rooms like this and standard office rooms, but also you have different forms of gathering because we've transitioned now into open workstations, but not everybody is comfortable in that environment because some people like quiet. So there's quiet spaces that people can go and collect their thoughts. And also it provides a nice space that's intimate, so you can connect and engage with each other, and then go back into your working environment. I think that was it. Friday we're celebrating International Women's Day as a collective within Public Works, and we just painted and spoke and engaged with each other, and and in the environment in which we work. And so that notion of adaptability, change, understanding, and empathy for who we are. And that change also goes with as we transition and age in life, because people get more sensitive. And then you have menopause, and that has its own so sometimes you may have a fluctuation within yourself, and you need to take yourself from the space, but you're in this whole public space with everybody. You can go into a quiet room, gather yourself, have composure, whether it's a hot flash or whatever is going through your system at the time, and go back to your desk and work, and not be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the nice things I've seen. And it's like, in terms of my certification and stuff like that, it's a mandatory element that you have to keep up to maintain your cert, because part of any profession is empathy. Yeah.
Absolutely. As you were speaking, I think about the saying, I think it's from a dancehall song, it's about fashion over style.
Yeah.
But when I thought about function over form, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just about this office looks pretty, this
Yes.
building looks this way. It's about what are the people who are working there? What do they need? What are the outcomes that we want? And that's what it is. So I think function over form is really important. And like you said at the end there, keeping empathy and understanding for who you're serving as part of that is important. If you could sort of round out this segment, what policies you think should be prioritized to ensure that infrastructure truly better supports women and girls?
One of the things I think it's about a cultural shift to understand how to support women, because I found that sometimes you have to be your own advocate. Because as a young girl growing up, based on the values and the principles that I was taught, with how society has changed, I haven't changed. So I sometimes don't fit in because I'm very conservative. I follow a set thing. I'm not going to change for it. And I find that sometimes maybe I don't fit in, but you can make yourself fit, because I think that one of the things of being a professional is that no matter how professional and no matter how advanced you become, it's like if it's not enough, unless you're married and you have kids. But sometimes there's young women here and all over the world who may choose God, and that's okay. And so sometimes I take a stance, I manage and I maneuver through whatever comes. Sometimes you get little assumptions on you, but you stick to it because there's some young girl who is going through a professional environment. And if she doesn't see that there's a professional woman who's happy, engaged in the world, and is balanced, then sometimes you see young people make mistakes and they have to live with that mistake and still be balanced. As sometimes it's a single mom, sometimes you go through all these different things, and so you have to be your own advocate. There's another thing that since I have been working in architecture, I have not seen any push for certification. And so I see a lot of young people go, they study architecture, they come back, they gain all this experience, all this knowledge. And when they finally want to make that stepping point, there's hurdles everywhere. And like with American system, there's AIA, and you have to get internship, and there's 3 years. And if you don't have that 3 years mentorship, has to be in the States for one half that. So you can gain all your experience, have someone sign off, but if you don't get that 3 years, you can never get certified, and people will see you as half because you don't have that paper behind your name. And so I reached that block, and I was like 15 years into the working environment, getting all this experience with government. And one day a lady left, and she gave me all her study material for AIA. And I thought, how come someone would do that for me? And I can't really use it for anything. But I said, you know, God has a purpose, and there must be a purpose for me to advance somewhere. And so I let time pass, and then I went to ask someone to be my mentor, because I said, well, I'll find an avenue in being a chartered surveyor. And when I made a phone call, I sent my CV to the person. I never heard back. And I felt disappointed inside. And then one day I said, I grew up with strong women, so there must be a way, right? So I pick up myself, and I sent an email to Reba, and I said, I'm a young girl, I have my degree, I've gotten all this professional experience, and I would like to get certified. What are my avenues? And they gave me a mentor. Where I couldn't find it here, they gave me a mentor. And he sent me an email saying that, well, you have to have a registration where you're at. So from the 80s, they've been trying to get a registration here in Cayman, and it still has a block. I don't know what it is. So I said, I got disheartened, and I said, well, that's not here, but this is my qualifications. They said, well, you can make it, because all this time I kept on building myself. Where there was an avenue to get international certification, I took the exam and I got it. So I not only had my degree, but I had other things behind my name. And I got my certification. And then after I got it, I went to AIA and I said, I got my certification with Reba, can I get through? And I got through as an international architect. And then one guy asked me, well, why do you need both? I said, I need both because I have to show young people. It's a barrier you have to break. So why not? You know?
Why not?
So why not?
So it's giving yourself grace.
Yeah.
It's making space, literally and figuratively, for yourself and others to grow.
Yeah.
It's finding the pathway, and if there doesn't exist, you make a way for those coming behind. Thank you very much, Davida. Really, really nice. Earlier on, one of the things Davida talked about was the importance of considering the various stages that women go through. Perimenopause, menopause, breastfeeding, et cetera, so thinking now a bit about health, women's health. Emily, Director of Alex Panton Foundation, we're going to try to see how we can help women and girls make better decisions around their health. So from your perspective, what do you see as some of the biggest barriers that prevent women and girls from accessing healthcare and wellness services?
That is a great question. And I feel like it's been already addressed in so many different ways in what's been shared so far. And I think there's two main barriers that I want to highlight. One is social, how we've been socialized as women. It's come up, I think, in almost every single answer of how we multitask well, we're go, 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 and we are really hard workers and natural leaders. And yet in all of that problem solving of the things around us, we very often do not take care of ourselves. And I'm so encouraged to hear your story of how you invested in yourself in that way, because I feel that that's a huge barrier for women, is not just an expectation of ourselves, but kind of a subconscious expectation from people around women saying, oh, well, you know, women are strong, women are resilient, and they can keep going, they can push through. And I find that people often underestimate the connection between your mental health and your physical health, and how much your body holds trauma, how much it holds stress. I know when I'm really stressed, my shoulders start to knot up, and before you know it, I'm sitting at my desk like this, and someone walks by and is like, are you okay? Oh, actually, I should take a breath. And I think if we don't be intentional about taking care of our mental health, giving ourselves grace and moments to rest, then our bodies will do it for us. And then now we're in a position where we're facing long-term, possible chronic physical issues. And the other side of that is finances. I know that's another separate question, but that's a major one that we can't glaze over. Not just with considering the cost of living, but considering the cost of therapy itself. I think on average, if someone is diagnosed with a mental disorder or a mental illness, even a standard one like an anxiety disorder, depression, it takes approximately 8 consistent therapy sessions to truly see some change and some difference and some improvements in your mental health condition. I believe one of the best mental health insurance coverage packages on island covers $1,500, and therapy is easily $200 a session. So that doesn't even cover half of what you would need to truly make progress with your mental disorder or mental illness. That alone is so discouraging. You take all of the steps to access mental health care to prevent not just your mental health declining, but your physical health as a result as well. And the financial access is really, really difficult. So those are the two major ones I would highlight, is sociologically, how we perceive ourselves and how we manage ourselves, as well as financially. Those are the two major ones.
Well, picking up on that point around finances, obviously this conversation is being brought to everyone by the credit union, which is a financial institution. And you touched a bit on how finances play a role in healthcare choices. So from your perspective, what do you think a financial institution like the credit union or otherwise could support women with having access to health-related resources?
That's a brilliant question. I'm not sure I have the solution to that one right now. I do know, though, that applying social pressure makes a huge difference. And women across so many different civil issues have been the driving force for change. And in advocacy, applying pressure to insurance companies to expand their coverage. I think with powerhouse entities like credit union and the respect they have in the community, being intentional with advocating for that, with connecting with insurance companies. I'm not sure what the logistics of that could look like, but I do think there is power in advocacy and power in advocacy in large numbers. Yeah.
I love how you're like, I don't know if I have an answer to that. And you give us because absolutely, like, organizations can be champions for change. Credit union does a great job at listening to the membership, and I encourage that when members are sharing feedback with credit union, speak about the things that matter to you, because credit union is listening and, being an advocate for change and championing some of these things. So absolutely, that's great. Lastly, how do you think that we can better integrate workplace wellness initiatives to support the overall well-being of women?
So many I have heard already, and it's amazing about CIG, implementing the wellness days, how you've been flexible with women on maternity leave. It makes my heart sing to hear how intentional so many people have been, because I think people often use professionalism as a filler word for stay in line and kind of be a robot almost, when we're humans. And it's really difficult to keep your personal things out of how you function. There's a productive way that you can go about having a difficult time, and you're in the workspace and you have to stay composed. But if you're not doing well, it's important that workplaces have systems in place that provide that support, that give you the space to seek help, to have a moment. And I think being intentional with connecting with people, I can't remember, I wrote it down. Someone mentioned, I can't recall. You all said so many amazing things. Shared story. Someone said something about having a share. I think it was you, Melanie. Don't underestimate the power of sharing. And I understand some people appreciate privacy, and that is absolutely okay. But you'd be surprised how much healthier a workplace can be when you open up to the people around you. And when you know that that is a safe place, that the people around you will validate your emotions. And validating emotions does not always mean validating the problem. If someone is really upset about a super small thing, it could be stemming from something larger. It could be stemming from something that they're dealing with at home, and giving them room to just rant and say, wow, that sounds really difficult for you. That can make the world of a difference, versus being dismissive of like, oh, that's not a big deal, like let it go. People that have a safe space to do that, to express themselves, can then feel that relief and move forward. And I just find that those little moments are what truly shape a culture and make a difference in a healthy workplace and implementing a wellness culture, a wellness-oriented culture. There was one other point I wanted to highlight about that, which was, you mentioned something about people making mistakes and being fearful of making mistakes. And that is such a breeding ground for difficult workplaces, because people are human. You're going to make mistakes. And there's a huge difference in penalizing someone for being human versus having compassionate accountability. And something, I can't even remember who said it to me, but someone gave me advice when I was first kind of stepping into leadership roles of be harsh on the problem and gentle on the person. Give them grace, let them know you understand and it's okay, but this is the issue. How do we solve that together? How do we move forward collectively where we're on the same page and we're both confident that you know how to navigate this next time? And that's, I think, a subtle thing also that makes a huge difference with women in leadership roles, is we're more intuitive and equipped to offer compassionate accountability.
Gems, like copious notes. Way at the top, you talked about the connection between mental and physical health. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about that, I'm sure there's lots of information on the Alex Panton Foundation website. But also there is a fantastic book that I recommend called The Body Keeps Score. And literally I got chills, like the title kind of gives away exactly what it's about, but the body does remember. So if you want to explore a little bit more about that, do that. Harsh on the problem, gentle on the person. How brilliant is that? Put it on a shirt, on a mug. That's fantastic. We talked about sharing and connecting with people and making space and creating a sense of safety for people to open up. in our Cayman Islands context, like many other Caribbean cultures, we often do that around food. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm sure that in our social times at work, there's food involved, and breaking bread is so powerful. So consider the next time that you're having one of these office socials and you've picked up on something with someone or someone wants to chat, like use that as an opportunity to engage with them. And food brings comfort, certainly in times of joy and times of struggle. For me, I love all things food. And so I am super happy now to dive into the next segment around food security and agriculture for women and girls. And we have Dr. Ashley Welcome and Ms. Claudette Mackenzie Bowen. So ladies, again, we're going to sort of tag team across this segment as well. Maybe start with you, Dr. Ashley. What role do women play in food security, sustainable agriculture, particularly here in Cayman? Feels like a hot topic at the moment.
It is. So food security and sustainable agriculture, in my opinion, are sort of old concepts made new. So every society way back when, in the yonder years of civilization, had to have food security. You had to have sustainable agriculture or you wouldn't eat. So in modern ages, food security means to us the ready availability of food that is nutritious, healthy, and of good quality for people. For Cayman, that's particularly important because we're an island. So everybody remembers the COVID chain breakdowns, the supply chain breakdowns. 1 week corned beef is missing, the next week you can't find tuna, the next week you can't find either. So I think at that time, everybody saw the importance of food security and having food grown locally, but we kind of tapered off again and it's kind of coming back to the forefront. As an island nation, we're very vulnerable to if we don't have food supplies locally. As soon as supply chains break down for any international reason, weather systems, the boat is out at sea and can't get to the dock because of the weather, which happens a lot in the aftermath of a hurricane, or when there is an event like COVID or other international issues. That is the importance of food security. That whole concept clearly requires a lot of innovation. And in my opinion, women bring innovation to the field. So when I first started in agriculture, I had pretty much all male mentors, and God bless them, they were great advocates for me. But a female would really have helped to bring some innovation and understanding to my position as a young Caymanian female in the role. So I think that's something that women really bring to this sector. Innovation, unique points of view, unique ideas, and just championing other women to join the sector.
Ms. Mackenzie Bowen, what role do you see as women play? And forgive me, I consider myself a pretty learned person. You're an agronomist. For anyone else who's wondering, what is that exactly? What's an agronomist?
Okay, so I'm an agronomist at the Department of Agriculture. Right, so I deal with anything having to do with plants, soil, pest and disease management, and basically encouraging and promoting the domestic food production, encouraging farmers to grow in a productive way while maintaining the environment in a sustainable way, because as we all know, soils are non-renewable. So if we lose it, it's gonna take about 500 years to get it back, so it's non-renewable. I've been working in agriculture for about 37 years. And when I came to the Cayman Islands, I was working in Cayman Rock. So it was a totally different operation from what I was used to. Then you hear the stories of how the men would be at sea and the women were left home. So this was an island where the women were the stewards of the food. They are the ones responsible for food security. And as Dr. Welcome mentioned, COVID taught everybody a lesson. So the Department of Agriculture ended up staying open despite we were not deemed an essential service, but we had to stay open because people literally thought they were gonna starve. So we had to be producing a lot of seedlings, encouraging persons to grow, and every person who had lost jobs because of the shutdown went into food production. right? And so we learned from that, and the department sought to train people to allow them to be better able to produce their own food. And one of the challenges as a woman in agriculture is that there's always the issue of gender inequality, which Ms. Christine spoke about. Different ways. Ownership of land is an issue. You find men owning most of the land. When women get the land, it's usually fragmented or linked to the husbands or family members. So even accessing funds to do any commercial operation, it's a challenge. For females in agriculture, what we're trying to do is encourage more persons, but it has to be looked at a policy level where we're now teaching it in schools, because most young persons are looking at agriculture as backbreaking, using a machete and a hoe, and agriculture has gone beyond that. There's new technology out there. The minister in recent times has had all schools equipped with a hydroponics unit, just to show them that there's a different way, right? So it's no longer utilizing the soil to produce food and raising livestock. You can go soilless. So in order to encourage young people to get into it, it has to be taught in schools, because we need to break the concept that persons have that if you can't do anything else, you do agriculture. It doesn't work. And what happens is that sometimes you end up with a young person coming because they're being forced to do this thing that they really don't want to do. And because they're now put in a position where they have to be working outdoors and in the sun, it demotivates them. So it has to be looked at differently, where if we're going to seriously think about the food security of the Cayman Islands, it has to be started from early. It has to be looked at from that level.
So awareness of what it really is about.
Yes.
And access to the resources needed to get in there. Ashley, you spoke quite openly and honestly and passionately about wanting to have more women to like lead you and guide you and support you when you were starting. And so two things, I'd like if you could share what drew you to the field, because I imagine there were lots of male farmers and male vets and that kind of thing. And so what drew you to that? And then what would you have liked to have seen that would have probably encouraged more of your colleagues to join the sector? Basically, how can we encourage more women to consider agriculture?
Okay, so I always joke that I've always wanted to be a vet, which is not quite true. I decided when I was 4, and before that I wanted to be the pink Power Ranger. I've always wanted to be a vet. I wanted to do small animal, and as part of my preparation to go off to university, I decided to do a rotation with the Department of Agriculture. My very first rotation was at the agriculture show, and it was the best experience of my life. So from there on, I continued with livestock. Growing up, my grandfather raised cattle. My father now raises cattle. My brother raises cattle. I raise cattle. So I've always been exposed to it. But that agriculture show as an intern was the moment that I decided to go into livestock medicine. So that is what attracted me to the field. In terms of how I think I could have benefited from female mentorship, I think that the male mentors I had did a really good job, but they were also all foreign nationals. So I think there was a double whammy in the lack of understanding of my position as a young Caymanian female trying to enter the sector. So I admire them greatly, and they taught me many, many things, ranging from veterinarians to farm hands to farmers. I really appreciate them all. But it would have been good to see that there is somebody in the position that I aspire to reach. And so I'm really pleased to offer that, to now be in a position that I can offer that. We have a female intern right now. I've had a slew of female interns since I started. And I feel proud to be able to show them that, yes, if you want to be here, you too can reach this position. Right?
So exposure. We just had our agriculture show last week, and I think our social media timelines are flooded with all the eyes and ahs of the children. So exposing them and being an example. Thank you for being an example. And then either of you or both, you want to take this one? I mean, you both kind of touched on it, the opportunities that are available, because clearly yourself, you're entrepreneurial and you're raising your cattle and your family as well. And you talked about the vast majority of landowners are male. So from your perspective, what sort of financial or educational support do you think is needed to help women succeed in the sector? And of course, this can be from your professional perspective or your personal perspective. And I think you both expressed involvement in the sector in that way. So what support do you think is needed?
I think that, especially if you're looking at young persons, because one of the things that I've always done, having gotten the opportunity to work here, is to encourage young persons. We do get a lot of interns at the department, but unfortunately, none of them wants to work in crop production. And I think part of the issue is that a lot of the work is outdoors. There's some manual element to it, but we've often tried to express to them that even if you have a wonderful shade house system, at some point you will have to do something. Everything will not be entirely automated. So maybe the need for vocational training, so that if you don't want to pursue it at, say, a tertiary level, then they can, because not everybody is academic. So having that vocational training support in place, and I think there is a small amount of it being done now, would help. Also, maybe you do have women in agriculture here who are struggling, maybe having grant opportunities available that they can grow their businesses, maybe helping with marketing and promotion, that sort of thing. So those are some of the ways that I think we can get women to succeed. I probably have one of the largest units in the department to run, but it is predominantly men. And it probably helps with me being a woman managing them, because I really don't get the resistance that you will get if it was probably more females. So it helps in that way. So we want young people to be encouraged that even though they're females, they can come out, they can make the effort to study and come out and lead. It's a male-dominated field, but definitely if there's scholarships available, and I think the government probably should look at having scholarships available for young persons to specifically study agriculture, because it is needed if we are to be concerned about the food security of the country.
I had very similar points to Ms. Claudette. I think there's two primary barriers to entry for women in agriculture, and they're both financially based. One is the access to land, and one is the access to education. So the education aspect is worsened by the lack of awareness of the roles. I'm fortunate because I'm a vet. Everybody knows what a vet is. Most young girls want to be a vet. It's a very popular career choice amongst young children broadly. Not many people know what an agronomist is, and that is one of the more prominent agri-sector roles. So I think part of it is raising awareness in women and in youth that agriculture is a very broad field. People hear agriculture, they think working in the field, they think planting plants, they think chasing cows. That's not agriculture. You can be a food technologist, you can be a food chemist, you can work in a lab, you can work in the field, you can work in a factory, you can work wherever you want to work in agriculture. So it's a very broad field. There's something for everybody. Everybody at this table could probably find a job in the agri sector. So I would encourage people to look into what opportunities there are. If you think agriculture is not for you, you might just not know enough about it, because there's something for everybody. Right? So financially, I think providing access to scholarship opportunities specific to the agri sector, in whatever capacity that may be, would encourage students to pursue it. Students came around to my school when I was graduating high school. Clients came around to our schools, businesses, and they called for lawyers, they called for accountants. Nobody called for a vet, so I was a little sulky. I wish they had But they certainly didn't ask for an agronomist or a farrier, or a biochemist, or a biosecurity officer, which is what we're looking for now. So we need to be future thinking and see what rules we need for the future for food security and ask for scholarships from Caymanian children now, offer the scholarships to them now. So in 4 years, we have them here ready and equipped to go into the field.
Yeah.
The land issue is significant. I know the government is trying to address it through peppercorn leases. I do think some people want to own outright. I'm one of those people. I think ownership is important in terms of asset building. So for a woman to be able to own their own land and have that asset in their name and create a financially productive, profitable company, that is what agriculture should be promoting. We do encourage food security. We have a herd, we're selling the calves, but those things are sort of the give a man a fish to get you started. We really need to be encouraging financial independence, encouraging women to take ownership of their business, of their land, of their animals, not relying on the government or on subsidies. So I think the beginning of that is grants or loans, lower cost loans, as much as you can, specific to agriculture.
Wow. We are currently sitting and I know that the credit union has a team of fantastic loan officers who are always happy to hear about the exciting ideas, the creative possibilities that people have to acquire assets in the Cayman Islands. So I encourage you, if you have an idea, if you have an interest, have a conversation, reach out. You may not have all the steps figured out, but that is okay. Begin the conversation, because that's part of what the credit union wants to do, is to help build a secure financial future for its members. Thank you so much for elevating those. And I also believe in giving credit where it is due. Miss Mackenzie Bowman talked about some of the ways that we can encourage and support entrepreneurs in agriculture. And the Department of Agriculture, about 4 or 5 months ago, reached out to our Department of Tourism. And the essence of it was, they said, hey, we have a lot of participants in agriculture who are making, artisan food products and crafts and that sort of thing that they're making. And they're like, we have this whole audience of visitors who come to the island. Can you help us help them to build a market for their businesses by getting in front of more tourists? So a team from the Department of Tourism were invited to these workshops that you all did across multiple days and talked to some of the artisans and producers about ways to do that. And I think I remember receiving the email and thinking, this is fantastic, because the Department of Agriculture is being a champion, a supporter, and advocate for farmers. And I think that's also a really important point. When you're coming into a sector, you know that you have a team at the Department of Agriculture who's going to support you and want you to succeed as well. So kudos to the department for the efforts to support the sector there as well. Gems, like ownership, like the way you two ownership. And be future focused, absolutely. And I do remember, I think maybe 12 years ago when I was on Education Council, at the time, there was a strategic focus for us as a country on healthcare. I think that the government of the time was very future focused, and they made their policy was, we are prioritizing young Caymanians who want to study healthcare. And I think we all can agree that whether it's for preventative healthcare or because something has happened, we are seeing more and more young Caymanians when we enter our healthcare institutions. And it's because of a deliberate decision that was made. So hopefully anybody who might have the ear of perhaps the next administration, whatever that might look like, is consider, let's think about what our national priorities are 10, 15 years down the line, and who knows, maybe agriculture might just get top billing. Thank you very much for that as well. So, I think everybody so far has talked about the importance of education and training and learning and whatever. So we have pressure coming down the pipe, I think, on Miss Rocket, who is in charge of truly nurturing the next generation. It'll be like Generation Delta, I think, by the time.
Our alpha, beta. So Miss Rocket runs a preschool. My little sister goes to your school, and so I know they're 2, 3, 4 years old. So Miss Rocket, we want to make sure that we get access to the quality education and training for the future and what we need. How does access to education impact career opportunities for women? I mean, we probably all know the answer to that, but from your perspective as an educator, tell us about that.
First of all, every one of you talked about education in your topics. You couldn't avoid it. Education is the moving force of any country. It will determine the type of people you will develop. It will determine the type of social skills that will be out there for the market, all the social ills also. I remember when I was in university, ironically, I wrote a paper about some countries not allowing women to have education so that they can better control them. So a country that offers a second-class education actually controls its population in its hands. So when I was thinking about this, I said, you know something? We are actually educating. And when I talk about it, it's hard to segregate just females, because what happens in the school system is going to impact our males also. That when you decide on what programs you're going to run, it's going to determine what type of people you're going to have for the workforce. So if we, as a country, look at the trends of where these new careers are popping up, we must make the shift and the changes in our education system. Otherwise, we will have a widening gap where we still have to import all of this labor. So it is time for us as a country to not just sit and make policies within a small room. We need to go out to the various companies and say, 10 years down the road, what is your projection? Because that projection should determine what we teach within our school system. We've sat here and we have heard about all of the needs that we have for this country to sustain itself. But what are we doing as a country to prepare our young people to meet those needs? And it has to start now. I remember when I was at Leading Edge as the deputy principal, we decided we were going to try something different. Boys sometimes don't like being in classroom with girls. Boys like to sometimes not necessarily keep their shoes on while they're in class. And we looked at all these things that we were picking up with the males in class versus the females in class. So we decided we're going to try an experiment, that the English class was going to be an all-male class. And they were going to, and it was actually a class of a lower level. And these kids learned to read. They were able, the teacher was very liberal. She allowed them to take off their shoes, lie on the floor and read. But the thing was, we got the results we wanted. And sometimes we're so hardcore of how, let's look at the spaces, of how we use the spaces in the school system, that we're so rigid. And my grandmother always told me, a tree that will not move with the wind will do what? It snaps. Okay, so we've got to constantly be moving and evolving our education system. We have got to meet the needs of tomorrow. Otherwise, what are we preparing these children for? For failure? Is that what our intention is? We cannot allow that to happen. So, females, males, we need to be able to prepare. something that is lacking in our education system. Role models. When I went to school, I had lots of local teachers. The numbers are dropping. They're dropping. They're dropping. How can I want to be a teacher if I'm not seeing people like me out there? How can I want to be anything if I'm not seeing people out there? I remember the late McMinney from prep school and late Miss Jandy Clifford. For some reason, I don't know why, whenever Mrs. Armstrong, assistant, was absent, they sent Deweyne Hurlston and myself down there. They saw something that we didn't know. Both of us are now teachers. We need to encourage and to expose our young people in the field of education. There are many jobs, like anything. Nowadays, it's not, if you're an accountant, you just go in and do the books. Everything has now diversified. It's wide, it's open. And we need to let our students know that. When we were also at Leading Edge, we had something called LTI, Learning Through Internship. These children were only 13, 14 years old. But for 6 weeks, 1 day a week, the year 9 students went into companies and got that experience. And I remember a little young lady who said, I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And I'm so glad that I got that opportunity because I realized that's not what I want to do. So exposure is another thing that we have to make sure that our young people get. How does this impact our economy? The majority of our population is females. If our females cannot be productive and find jobs, then it's going to impact social services because they're going to have to be handouts. Government has to increase that budget. You're going to have the mental health issues of women not feeling productive, not feeling enough. That's another bill, and she spoke about that, how high that can be. So education has to be the core of any country. And I think that we need to stop playing with it as a football. It is a serious issue, and we have to look at it for us to move forward, for us to make sure that our people are self-sufficient and feel as though they are in the workplace when they step in there. I can challenge anyone to this job. I am enough. Although I am a female, I am enough.
And more.
And stand up. I remember when I was in teaching for a few years, I said, wait a second, where's my pathway? I was bold enough in a meeting and go into my principal and said, good afternoon. As a young Caymanian, can you tell me what my pathway is? And she was shocked. I said, yes, you don't expect me to be in the classroom for the rest of my life. This is not what I intended. And their hands were forced. I got a mentor. I moved up the ranks. I became deputy principal. I became principal of the alternative education, director of the pregnant parent and student services. And now I own my own preschool. Obstacles were placed in my way. Oh, there were males. Yes, they were. And there were some very supportive males. But you cannot let that break you. As women, we have to continue to support each other, and we have to find strength in ourselves. And every now and then, it's good to just take a little breather and go back to yourself, to your comfortable space, breathe, reorganize, refocus, and come again. But doing everything.
So access to not just education, but the right education, when we're thinking about being future focused and future forward is important, but also making sure that education is delivered in the right ways, whether it's with no shoes in a classroom, whether it's with that LTI program to help you figure out, is this what I really want to do? Or otherwise, and you talked several times about us as a country and about ourselves being adaptable and being flexible. And it made me think of this quote I have on a bag, actually, a friend put on a bag for me, and I love it so much. It's out as someone who does yoga, it particularly matters to me. But it says, if you remain flexible, you will never be bent out of shape. And I think that's true as a country as well. We are definitely at a point where we need to figure out a lot of things as a country, but we have to remain flexible. What do we need in 5 years, in 10 years, in 25 years? Because we do not want to be bent out of shape at all. So thank you very much for that, Miss Rocket. And what I love is that across the room, everybody, when they get and start talking, it's the confidence that we're all speaking about. And there's so many ways to build confidence. And I think one of the key ways that everybody knows confidence is built is through sports. And I know some people think, well, I was never into sports, but I mean, it's such a broad area, right? So turning to you, Miss Nita, and we talk about elevating women's and girls' participation in sports, but the power of sports to elevate women and girls as well. Tell us, what role have you seen sports play in developing leaders and elevating young women and girls?
Well, not only sports, I would say fitness as well, because that's where I branched off. Because when we were talking about our aging population, they can't do impact. So I have transitioned to teaching fitness. I call it the 1C, and it's practically we do wellness, health, and nutritional support initiatives, and that includes fitness sessions from kickboxing to you name it. I mean, I have my 83-year-olds kicking and punching, and it works on their balance. It helps them to think. It's their mental wellness. So I wouldn't say sports because I've transitioned. I still support organizations like clubs and the national teams if they need support. Like, for example, when we had some of the suicides, some of the girls on the teams were impacted. So I help to support and provide help and take people there, and they talk to the girls and give them support in that way. I still support sports in that way, but my sessions have now transitioned because I believe that the older women have been left behind, and I believe that it will lessen the cost of the health care if we keep those people active.
Sure.
But to go back to the role, I think sports play in building leadership and confidence in women and girls. It's pivotal in the development of girls and by fostering not only physical health, but also critical life skills. We talk about confidence, teamwork, and resilience. And I think engaging in sports or physical activity provides opportunities to challenge yourself, to develop new friendships, to learn valuable lessons that transcends the playing field or the exercise room, wherever you're doing your activity. It's not only providing confidence, but it's a safe and supportive environment for exploration and risk-taking for the younger girls through participation in fitness and sports. You learn valuable skills. I mean, you know, in my fitness group, my programs are designed to support each participant's unique journey, allowing them to progress at their own pace. So I might have 15 women in a group and say we're doing a squat or a push-up, and that's broken down into 3 different types. So you might be more advanced. I did a fitness challenge last year, and I had an 80 to 89 age group, and they had their different point system. We had a point system. So if you have to do the push-up on the wall, or if you do it on your knees and lower your chest. So we provide a safe environment for people to grow and progress within the skill sets that they have. And what our focus is not the quantity, but the quality and the technique so that they're safe. So those are some of the things that we're focusing on. And I think that that's what participation in fitness activity and sports does. It builds confidence. I kicked off the month of March with an empowerment evening. And within that empowerment evening, my women walked. It was a walk of confidence. So even though some people will call it modeling, it was a walk of confidence. And I had women there from all age groups. I had up to 83. And I had, they have different shapes and sizes, different ailments. Some people come into my class with a walking stick. By the second week or the third week, they're standing up with that walking stick and moving. And then after 4 weeks, they're ditching it because they build stamina and strength, but also confidence. And those people walked, and it was an absolutely amazing evening. And we had the Miss came on the present one, and we went back to the one from 1982. It was Teresa Pickford walked, and then we had people read poems of women to empower them. And Reverend Mary Graham spoke with a woman in gratitude and spoke about that. So I think that the environment of sports and fitness for women builds all of those things that I just mentioned and more. And then they tap into your network, and then you help and support each other. And studies shows that women and girls who participate in fitness activities and sports are more likely to have higher self-esteem, less depression, compared to non-athletes or people who are not active. And this correlation is supported by many studies, basically it helps them to feel better and improves their self-worth. So those are some of the things under that topic that I feel is important for women. And I think you asked what challenges women face. I think that sports participation is growing, but female still face unique challenges. And some of those challenges might be, for example, having a safe place to exercise. I mean, I'm in the hub now, and that's a safer place for my women. Before that, I was operating sometimes outside in the corner near the football field or the track. I had a room, but every time it was a sports meet, I had to move the stuff. And then it would rain and it would be flood, but we still try to make it work. So I think having a safe space, some of the women that come to my program will not go to a gym because they feel conspicuous. They feel that people are going to be watching them. So I think a safe environment for them to exercise in makes them feel more confident and more likely to be consistent and past that stage of where I'm going to give up, because then they build friendships. We also have issues with even the basketball team. I mean, we spoke about that just last week, where some of them, they have to do their work on the track. And that's not very desirable for them because they want to actually be dribbling the ball, but they can't get access to the gym because the gym is being used to have a meeting that could be held in a room where only a meeting can be held. You can't take the basketball hoops out of a gym and put them in another gym. They're there permanently. So that room should be primarily, just using this as an example, should be used for that. And the meeting should be held elsewhere. And it's things like that we come up with, that we face, which I think is unnecessary. And I think to affect these types of change, it comes back to having advocates in the positions that can make decisions. And whether it's a woman or a man, to stand firm and lobby for these things and speak up so that people could get the opportunities that they need. I mean, and as women, we're built different. So especially when we don't have proper facilities, even when we do, we're prone to typical injuries like the ACL. And then it goes back to healthcare costs and not having proper insurance, rehabilitation, and to be able to do all those things that you have to do to recover. And I think warm down and recovering those things are even more important than the warm up. And those are some of the things that women face. You have the gender disparities where we have, the female team. I'll use the female football team. I remember when they won and made history. Their dinner was done by Jatis, not putting Jatis down. But down there, right by jetties, that's where they went to eat. And the men went to crime. I remember the women's football team telling me that they get to choose from the secondhand uniforms that the men no longer use. So these are some of the challenges that the women face. And, I think that transportation issues is another thing. You have some women who have young kids and they have nowhere to leave their kids, so they have to go back home. I see young girls that were my students and I say to them, how come you're not playing anymore? Mom, I'm so tired, I have to get home, I have no one to take care of my kids and blah, blah, and I'm exhausted and that kind of stuff. So I think these are some of the things, and I mean, I think I've heard you and other people talking about spaces within the workplace where they can express and do stuff. So perhaps some of the sports facilities, when we do get more, could perhaps have something in place where young people could come and leave their kids and that they could work out and get to do stuff, because that will help to de-stress them. And in turn, they go home and then they will be a better parent because they will feel as if they did something for themselves. I mean, within our fitness group, we have an emotional self-check. And one of the things on that list is, do I have any activities or anything I do for myself outside of my family? Because I think it's important, even if it's just for 1 hour. So those are some of the things, I mean, that I feel that we face, and a lot more. I think sponsorship is a big game changer, and providing critical financial resources and visibility. I mean, like, I remember playing in a basketball league and they started paying the winning teams. And like a year would pass and I would have to go and say, how come my team didn't get the money? We won the league. And you had to fight for it, and the amount that we got was significantly less than what the men got. So those are some of the stuff. I mean, and I think that we need to be our biggest cheerleaders. I think sometimes we as women, we'll go and watch the men play, but we won't support the women. I believe that we are our own power, and if women are selling merchandise and stuff, we need to buy it. We need to buy it and we need to support them. We need to buy tickets for the games. We need to uplift each other, and we need to straighten each other's crown without anyone even knowing.
Yeah.
So I think that we have come some ways, but I do believe that we have gone backwards in some ways.
Miss Mita, obviously, like you said, your focus in your work primarily, is this sport coordinator and coach, but you have this other project recognizing what the community needed, what women needed, what people needed, and you pivoted to that. I think seeing people for where they are and meeting them where they're at is a very important thing, and it's great that you created that space for them to do that. You also highlighted the importance of celebrating in a way that feels just and fair and meaningful. I think because, again, if a woman sees that their accomplishment is being recognized to a lesser degree than a man's, well, what message does that send them, and what other spaces are they going to be willing to accept less as well? So with you advocating for equality in the recognition, in the support, in the awareness, that's going to transfer across, just like the self-esteem and the confidence and everything. It's going to transfer across. I mean, like that young man loves to say, you're doing the Lord's work over there. Truly. So you're absolutely right. And to your last point around financial support and sponsorships, I would like to open the floor, and Ms. Mita will give you the first opportunity, and then anyone else might want to share. If you want to share from your own perspective, whether it's through your academic study, personal investment, business, or whatever otherwise, how a financial institution has supported you in your journey as a person, as a professional, as a woman, any sort of success stories that you might want to share. So Ms. Mita, start with you, and then.
Yeah, I can say within the role that I'm playing right now, I consistently get sponsorship from a number of organizations. I mean, Sheila, I've been begging you to sponsor not the netball girls, and you have come on board. I have written to you about one of my good friends, Marilyn's daughter, who has a degree, and I think you hired her. I think that was just a few months ago. CUC has been a huge support of my fitness challenge, and I've been told by Mr. Hugh that he can't say no, so I'm happy to hear that. About 5 years ago, I would say, I started a camp, and I decided that I wanted to move away from the typical netball or football camp, and I call it a fitness and health camp. Within that camp, we do etiquette, we do health, we do everything. The kids learn, they have to talk about gratitude, they set their own rules when they come in. It's a small group. We do self-love, and you would never believe how many of those children come in there and don't think that they're worth anything. People think that self-love is about going to get your toes done and that kind of stuff, but it's about accepting you as you are. And so those are my projects, and I believe people like CUC, I don't want to get political, but Mr. Panton, he just this month, he gave me $1,500. He paid for my photographer because last year it was turned down. And I think it's important for us to photograph these women to get it out there. And that's why I'm going to touch on the education part. We
Well, I
need,
can safely say that you never asked the credit union because we would have supported you.
and I will come to you now. But education is key because we need to keep putting people, giving these women the opportunities to go off to study and then come back, and whether it's going to be, they're going to come back and be into sports photography or recording, or it's so many different areas, and it's diverse. And I say all of this to say that I can't be doing it all, but I'm trying to, and I be begging everybody, and I have no shame. I have been very successful, and I'm very thankful. And while we're talking about it's just women, I have 2 males in particular that are slaves. I think they're morphed into women. Because they just help me so much, with my programs. And Tristan Reese and Hagen and James Miles. And I mean, because you can't do it. We need to partner together, and we will not get where we have to get. And I talk about the 3 W's: woman, water, and well-being. The world can't do without those 3. It can't. So I will leave you with that.
If I
Thank you.
could,
Ooh, yes, continue.
if I could interject here, I want to say a big kudos to credit union. Because of credit union, I now own Just for Kids preschool.
And the reading corner?
26, I saw come to that, Ms. Pratt. 26 years ago, I came in for a loan. I was turned down first initially at credit union. And it was because people did not understand my vision. I was very frustrated. I took it personal. I was defeated. But one little person came to me and says, "Don't be." I was on the board. Don't be. Got my ducks all in a row and decided to show the importance of early childhood education. And I also put the ball in credit union's hands to say, if you don't support your members to become self-sufficient and to grow, what is your purpose? That was the way I ended my letter. They said, okay, we will give you the money, but it's in phases. No problem, I'll take it in phases. By the time phase 1 was done, I'd done more than phase 1 was supposed to have done. By the time phase 2 was done, I'd done more than phase 2 had done. So by the time I finished, I had enough money to do the interior with furniture on their money. Oh, the paybacks were high, but I never missed out one. During the lockdown, no, during Hurricane Ivan, the school was closed. but only for 2 months. We were first preschool to reopen. I did not stop a payment. And that time, credit union was offering you that, but we didn't. And that was because I had planned for rainy days. And a lot of people go into business and they only see the profit and they don't realize that a portion of that belongs to the company. Okay, and that's vital. To celebrate our 25th anniversary, I came back to credit union. And it happened that a classmate of mine and a very good friend of mine was the director. So I decided that I was going to push the buttons to see if it will work. And I said to her, I know she has a love for education. She has a granddaughter and she had her reading from the time she was in the womb. Okay? So literacy is very important to her. And I knew that that was her passion. She reads books through the night. And I went and I said, this is our 25th anniversary. We can't just make it go by. So we decided to build a book nook in memory of the late Marjorie Beckles, who started the early childhood education unit. And guess who sponsored it? Credit Union. Credit Union has grown with us. The next step is for Credit Union to have readers come in on a weekly basis to read in that reading nook to our children.
Okay, Nancy, you're in charge of that.
It is hoped that by this summer, that all the children who have parents who are members of credit union, that they will go down and open their account. That is our dream. Okay?
Awesome.
So credit union has been wonderful. They do a lot of work in the community. But in terms of education, what I'd like to see, many companies give specific scholarships, but that does not fill the void that we have. There are the little there's a little certification courses that we tend not to look at. And I would like to see a lot of companies, especially those very large companies, to put money in a pool for students who don't have the GCSEs and the CICSEs, but just want a technical vocational that they can get here. And I think that that pool of money would help a lot of those children. Sometimes it might only be $1,000, but I think we need to start looking at that as a country. As many companies come here, they do extremely well. What is their carbon footprint? Have we ever stopped to ask that? We give all of these allotments, all of these concessions, but what is their carbon footprint? What are they leaving here? We need for you to invest in this. And I think that needs to be the next move for us in terms of education and allowing more access, especially our females.
Absolutely, and Ms. Rocket, thanks for sharing that. And I know my back is to them, but I can feel the pride in the credit union board and CEO and the manager.
That's amazing.
Yeah, their logo is on there. And one of our themes with the children, our 3-year-olds, is logos and signs and symbols. That's one of the things that they do. And they know that logo. They say, that's the credit union. Yes, absolutely. And they're only 3 years old.
Exactly. You've shown all of us here too the many ways that a financial institution can support. Because you might think immediately, oh, well, credit union is just loans, but it's partnerships, it's support, it's innovation, insight, supporting a dream. So thanks a lot for highlighting those. I know Miss Christine, I know you burn into share.
You have partnered with us. I have partnered with you all to do the 5K run. Remember, I used to do a lot of the 5K runs.
Sounds like the list of credit union support is very long.
It is, and this is amazing what you're doing this season.
It's very good, very good. Ms. Christine.
I just want to go back to sports because I am one of the original netballers who played on the grass court
So am I.
After you, but
I came out to me.
after you get to.
Yeah, when we started, I started, you see, like, playing with, the north side, and the mall, so you know you're not there yet. I'm proud to be a netballer, and I will always be. Netball taught us a lot of things that we couldn't learn at home. We learned, first of all, I learned, and I'm sure Miss Pat learned, how to go and come on stage without any paper and speak.
And how to beg for donations.
And we became professional beggars. We became professional beggars for the Netball Association. We also kept slim. Some of us didn't keep it up, but you know, but.
But we coming to you,
We kept slim, but I think it's, and I'll go back to what Ms. Mita said. We have to go back to government because the ladies' sports are treated different in the Cayman Islands. And the US now, the football girls are now getting the same salaries as the men. So we need to go back to them and bring us up to par with the men, whatever it takes, so that the sports can be better and the young girls can stay in sports like we did. I mean, going into management, we learned from that ball. We didn't go to know, well, that's before going off to university. We learned all of that at netball. So kudos to netball.
Thank you for sharing that, True. Absolutely. What you learn on the field helps you in the field of life as well. And yes, and about having a burning points to share, whether about how a financial institution has supported you or otherwise. Yes, I can see it.
do.
Yes.
I do. So as you know, I'm from the Youth Services Unit. The National Youth Commission has just launched their financial literacy program. And I met 3 young men yesterday afternoon who are very passionate about financial literacy. And they're trying to encourage all of our young people, Caymanians between the ages of 14 and 26, to take this financial literacy program. There's a $250 award at the end after you passed a certain, with a certain percentage. And there's some institutions that are on board that are going to help some of those young Caymanians to open bank accounts. So if a credit union, we will be reaching out just to encourage them.
That's for the program as well.
And you know, it's just, as I said, the young men are so passionate about it, and as a lot of people have said this evening, our young people learning about what financial literacy means, and that a bank account with a high balance doesn't necessarily mean you have money. You know, you go, sorry, no, I won't call it the grocery stores, but you go into certain places and you spend it and it's gone. But it's the whole purpose of what you do with that. Credit cards, you know, we fall into that pit. You've got a credit card, you have money, and just teaching our young people from a very young age. So I think if we have education, financial literacy, they're hand in hand, you know, we will do a whole lot for our young people.
But the credit union, you offered something online for government.
Yes.
I missed that because I had a session. But that, I thought when I looked back, that was really good.
Yeah, we do sessions in-house, we do sessions online, we go to government, we went to college, we went to UCCI. We also did the first youth financial literacy camp this last summer, and we have another one planned for this summer.
Very good. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, we've had such a truly incredible conversation here this evening. I mean, I can't believe that 2 hours have passed already. And I mean, through all of it, where we're talking about the building blocks, the moving force of a country, the education, to nurturing the talent, to keeping ourselves nourished and fed and taking care of the lands and making sure that our spaces that we're in are healthy and are supportive and inclusive, and making sure that the fields that are predominantly male dominated, we watch and celebrate those shifts and we take care of ourselves, and we are proud to be the owners of things as well. We've covered so many things, moving our bodies to move a country, and everything in between. And you all might have seen it because you've been looking at me in the audiences, but our audience online, they've been throwing up reactions. I've seen hearts, I've seen claps, I've seen thumbs up going up. And I'm really hopeful that all of you online, each of you who've been participating, all of you here supporting us as well have felt inspired and walked away with insights from this conversation. Incredible value here this evening. All of you are movers and shakers and influencers and experts in your field. And on behalf of the credit union, thank you so much for giving your time here this evening to share your insights and feedback. And when the recording comes out, I hope that many of you will share it to be proud of your contributions this evening. Here's a clap, there's a clap. Be proud of your contributions this evening. It's so cool because the big TV, it's like, someone like clap again, give me a heart again, and you can see what it looks like. I mean, there we go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When the recording comes out, please share it so that people can hear about your stories and your contributions, but also of your fellow panelists as well.
We have someone from the UK.
Absolutely, from the UK, awesome. We are so grateful that you chose to spend the evening with us. It's truly been an honor, and I think that everybody who listened will have felt honored to hear what you've had to share as well. Thank you all so very much. I think we're going to end the stream now, and then we're going to get out of here. But thank you all very much. Keep supporting and elevating each other and empowering each other. And let's make every month about our women.
Yes.